My name is Joe McGivern. I chair the Holyoke City Council's Finance Committee. This meeting tonight is on Zoom. We are live on the public access channel. We are being recorded by Zoom. We are being streamed, and we are in person. Committee members in person. To my left, Councilor Will Powell. To my right, Councilor Peter Tallman. And about to join us on Zoom is Councilor Juan Anderson Burgos. Our fifth member has a family commitment tonight, and Councilor Jordan will not be with us. We're also joined by City Councilor Bacon online on Zoom. And at the moment, I think that's it, although we have one of our newly elected city councilors in Carmen, welcome. And I can see you're doing your homework and getting ready.
Yeah.
Very welcome. A number of different department heads with us. Our auditor, as always, is with us, and we're going to get this going so we can get out of here. Sentimental reasons for the three of us, because Peter, Will, and Joe, this is our last Finance Committee meeting.
Sure is. A little bit, yeah.
They're clapping. I'm not sure why. Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
We're moving on.
Councilor Tomlin, before we start, could you read what we have to read?
Yes, I make a motion to take a roll call vote that for the purposes of this meeting would be applicable to all motions to remove an item from a table, place items on the table, package items, or suspend the rules unless there is an objection.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. We are now joined by Councilor Juan Anderson Burgos. Item number one.
Motion to take item 1 off the table.
Motion made second. We take item number 1 off the table for the second time in Finance Committee, introduced by myself for the mayor, that there hereby be appropriated by transfer in the fiscal year 2024 $60,500 out of the Capital Stabilization Fund into parking capital outlay vehicles. This is off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? This is our second round at this. We had some questions that we were looking answers for. Proposed for the purpose, well, capital stabilization, I think we know, was created under Mayor Garcia's term, and it's something for one-time expenditures, purchasing of different capital outlay items such as vehicles and other things that we need. It's a great source, and it's a great resource, and it's a wonderful way to do business. Just a real quick recap. The proposal here was to buy 2 vehicles, be under the Department of Public Works. The 2 vehicles would be for the purpose of our, I'm not sure of their title. We have our purchasing agent here, Jamie Morrow. And Laura, are you here for this one? And we have our tax collector. Laura, I'm going to always say Wilson, I'm sorry. But Laura and Jamie are here to answer some questions that we could not get answered at the last meeting. But the idea is to purchase 2 vehicles for the parking attendants, parking meters. Their duties include not just ticketing people who park illegal, but the collection of parking meter revenues and a number of other things. And I think we heard a lot about the purpose of this. But the questions, number 1, were about the uniforms and the cost, and number 2. Laura, Jamie, why don't you come on in and get comfortable,
Yeah.
grab a couple of seats, wherever you want. And when you hit the mics, you just hit the button and the green light comes on. Members of the committee, do we just want to see if we can get some answers, or do you have any questions?
Yeah, I can let them go for
Jamie, did you want to start?
Sure. So I have given you guys a new packet with a few corrections. We had some errors in the one that was submitted to you, and my apologies about that. So if I can pull your attention to the last page in the packet, which discusses the parking enforcement uniform prices. So the DPW, the structure of the uniforms, is all from New England Uniforms out of West Springfield. All of their uniforms are rented. It comes with a dry cleaning service. That's just how all the uniforms from the DPW are. They are rented, and all these are per the union contract, which that was correct. I think Jeffrey had forwarded you guys something. I included the page from the union contract that put the requirements for the uniforms, which is 11 pants, 11 long sleeve shirts per person, and 5 short sleeve shirts. So that was straight from the union contract. What our issue was before, and apologies for not including the prices, is all the catalogs didn't have prices. So we reached out to New England Uniforms, and this is where I got these prices for you from. So these are the rental rates. So if you look at pants, they're 57 cents a piece, which is times 11, because they need 11 of them, times 52 weeks a year. So that's, I just wanted to give you the rationale for the formulas there on my sheet. All of those are the rental prices. The 0.39s, the 1.86, that's per each piece, and then it's times the requirement for the union contract, and then times 52 weeks a year. So the total cost for the enforcement officers' uniforms plus the boots, this is for two, would be the $3,866.32. So it's a difference of $1,878 from our original proposal. So I just wanted to get you guys the updated, corrected information. And there's two different long sleeve shirt prices. This quote is reflective of the cheaper shirt, the $21.27.84, because when we received the catalog from Stephanie at the DPW, it wasn't clear which shirt she wanted to go with, so I quoted out both of them, but for the purposes of this, we did go with the lower one, which is still a fireproof, reflective, all the things that they do require. So I know there were some questions about the uniform prices, so I don't know if there's any further clarification on those with this updated breakdown. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Jamie, they're rented.
Correct.
Okay.
All DPW uniforms for all departments
DPWs are rented. And this may not be a question for you, so maybe I'll back off for a second. Okay, so you explained it. We got it right here in writing. And when an employee leaves, the uniforms are returned.
Correct.
But they also can be cleaned, dry cleaned.
They're dry cleaned weekly. That's why we rent them, because they're dry cleaned weekly. And then when we have new employees, they have different sizes and things like that. It's just a better value renting than purchasing them, because if we have turnover and we buy these people 11 pants, 11 shirts, and 5 shirts, and they quit 3 months later, that's a huge chunk of change we're out. So we found with the weekly rental program, it's a better value. And that's how they've been doing it forever.
11 pairs of pants? I can hear someone asking that question next Tuesday.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, and I did forward you the union contract, and if anyone wants the full contract, it's online at the personnel page. So I did page 20 of the DPW workers union contract is where the uniforms fall on. So I did just forward you guys that page because I didn't want to forward you the 86-page contract.
No, that's fine. we can, we don't have an issue with verifying and doing that. That's fine. Okay, that was some of the questions. Before I ask a question to the auditor, members of the committee, any questions about the uniforms?
I don't have a question on the uniforms, but I mean the rest of the.
Yeah, no. Let's if we could.
Yeah, of course.
Just finish the uniforms first.
That was really helpful, so thanks.
Yeah, no, my pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for bringing and clearing that up for us. And I'm just looking at the second page here. So did they get, 2 sets of uniforms, so that means each employee gets that whole 11, 5?
Correct.
Okay.
So what the union contract states is that for the parking enforcement, for each of them, they are to be given 11 pants, 11 long sleeve shirts, and 5 short sleeve shirts. So that's where this is reflective of, straight from the union contract.
Okay. So that's, the contract's telling them that they need.
That's what they need. That was, that's negotiated between the unions and the city. That's what the union had said that these workers need. So I have no control over that. I just had to support whatever the contract said and price it out appropriately. Okay.
Now, when you did we had the previous cost, I know it was a little bit higher and different. Was that with the uniforms being purchased or no?
No, the previous one was just our best guess in pricing, because the catalog did not have pricing. I then since reached out to New England Uniform and got the pricing. We don't purchase uniforms, so I don't know if the union contract states that they have to be rented. That's the DPW operation, so
Okay.
I don't know. I do have a price for purchasing, and I'm going to tell you the difference is very close if we bought them outright or if we rent them. And if you think about value for dollar, if we have turnover and things like that, renting them, if we buy all these uniforms and then the guy leaves in 6 months, we have to just go buy
more
the
uniforms.
same sets
Yeah.
for the new people that replace them. So we have found that the value is in the rental with turnover, you know, because they're expensive, as you guys have picked up on.
And as you stated about the cleaning, how does that work? They bring in...
Yeah, it's a weekly thing. They pick up the old ones and bring in new ones every week.
Every week. So they always have the good uniforms, clean uniforms, that, and they do that part of the
That's
cost.
part of the rental price.
Is a uniform cleaning, okay.
So if you look at that last page where it says, like, we'll take pants, for example. They're 57 cents each. That's a unit, so they need 11 of them. That 57 cents includes, you know, the pants and the laundering and the pickup and the delivery of them.
Okay.
So each of those unit prices includes that service.
All right. And as you stated, it's exactly what the contract says. Five shirts, or 11 shirts, long sleeve, 11 pants.
And 5 T-shirts.
Okay.
And one jacket.
One jacket.
And a pair of boots.
Okay. Okay. I'm all set.
You good?
Yeah.
Just, we have 2 parking attendants. They're not new. We've had 1 position filled for years.
John's relatively new. One is.
No, I understand. Now we haven't had 2 in a long time. We used to have 2. And the budget, it's allowed 2. Only one's been budgeted for, only one's been on duty, been hired. Like, why is money coming out of capital stabilization into parking capital outlays? Like, I get the vehicle part, which we'll talk about, but for uniforms, it should be in the budget.
So it's a one-time, because, so part of the uniform question is, and I'll let Laura speak as to some of the concerns for the parking enforcement people, but this would be a one-time to purchase a new uniform. So the uniforms in this proposal are not their current uniforms. So, and I'm going to turn it over to Laura to speak, as they need uniforms that are more reflective of enforcement.
No, I'm not. I'm more comfortable with the uniform and the way they're done, you know, than we were at the last meeting. The question is, Tanya, the line item this money's going into is parking capital outlay vehicles. Uniforms are rented on an ongoing basis by the DPW. Why would we want to do it this way?
I think we do not have money budgeted for that at the moment, so the mayor wanted to take it out of capital outlay, and I probably didn't even consider that question, so that might be on me.
Okay.
I can revise it to go into the uniforms line if you like, though, before you vote on it.
I think yes.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even pick up on that.
But as long as we get on the same page.
Yep, that's fine.
But renting is not one time; it's an annual cost.
Correct. So it's the one time to get them the new uniforms. Then the annual cost will be in the
then we can budget it
in the budget for the DPW. So it's the one time cost in the sense to get them the new enforcement uniforms, because these are new uniforms.
I didn't realize they were rented either, so I thought we were purchasing.
No, they're
under
rented.
equipment. Understood.
Laura, did you?
I can't offer anything to that.
Okay.
I'm here for other parts.
Okay, and let's let Councilor Powell ask a question about.
That was kind of my question.
I'm sorry.
I'm still no, you're good. I'm still kind of a little confused, because in the union contract it says that we do purchase. So do we do this for all DPW employees
All
too?
DPW workers, their uniforms are rented.
And these 2 employees, I guess these 2 positions have already been DPW?
They are through the DPW. So Stephanie Rodriguez is their direct supervisor, and then Carl's her supervisor.
They've just been wearing civilian clothing before this?
They purchased their own clothing.
They purchased, but why weren't they covered in the DPW contract?
So they were. What was offered to them is... What was offered to them was...
oh, the mic is what he's saying. Sorry.
She turned it on now. Yeah, we're good.
Shirts
what is he saying?
that said DPW, and the guys were running into problems, lack of respect and things of that nature. So out of their own pocket, they bought reflective sweatshirts and hats to wear, things that were more fitting. It's still uniformed.
So they had the DPW uniform. So if they wait a couple months, or what is it, wouldn't they just be able to get?
So John, actually, the newer parking enforcement agent, never took a uniform because he has been wearing a different uniform in hopes of this happening, so they would have better uniforms to fit their positions. Their t-shirts currently say DPW on the back of them, so they are not taken seriously when they are trying to enforce parking issues. They, out of their own pockets, bought body cams to back them up for situations that they were facing. And like I said, they wanted things that said parking enforcement, and like sweatshirts or something that they aren't given. So they purchase those. They wear their own shoes. They do get an allowance for that. But so John never took a uniform. He's the newer one, and Carlos returned all of his and has purchased the stuff that he wears.
He returned his DPW issued uniform.
Yeah.
But he wasn't able to exchange it?
No.
Because currently we don't have a uniform that's for their position.
But the one he exchanged was under this contract, right? The 52 swap dry cleaning.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
He had 11 pairs and a jacket. And, yeah.
So that was paid for the whole year, though, right?
No, it's paid weekly.
It's paid weekly.
It's paid
okay.
weekly. We get billed monthly, so we are not currently paying for uniforms for either of them.
Okay.
They are not taking them, so it's a weekly thing. They chose not to, and they wear their own uniforms, more reflective of enforcement. So we're not paying for any uniforms for them right now.
So is this set then more expensive than the original DPW set? Because if one turned in, then there should be money, right, for him to be able to at least cover some of this cost.
I would believe so. I mean, he's been employed in this position for a few years, so I would assume in the DPW contract there is, I'm assuming, funds there for it, because he doesn't wear the issued uniform.
Right. Yeah. That sucks he had to buy his own, though. I'm all set, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's if there's money out there, I mean, I'd rather that be used than what's being proposed.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
I'm all set. Thank you. I heard my question was answered.
Thank you. Did I hear that there's a clothing allowance in the contract?
Boot.
For boots.
For shoes, $200 per person.
Okay. But there's boots in this proposal too?
Yeah, boots. $400.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, boots 400.
So that's 200 and 200.
The boots aren't rented. Boots are
The boots are purchased.
and they're allowed $200, so $400 would be 2 boots, one for each.
One for each.
Wear the same pair of boots every day.
Donnie, do we know the line item for clothing in the DPW? Is there any money in it?
So I'm just looking right now, the municipal parking has their own budget. And that's what I was just trying to...
But it comes under the DPW, correct?
Yeah, they have their own budget, so that's where their employees are charged off to, and I'm looking right now, I think they have uniform in there.
Oh, microphone, he said.
Because they don't
You can't, your mic.
Mike.
Your mic.
Sorry. I'm just looking under their budget right now because they're charged off to the municipal facilities, and let's see. I don't see. I just see the $200 a piece clothing allowance in there, which could be for boots or uniforms. So there's $400 in clothing allowance. So you want to know if there's money in there right now?
Yes.
Hold on a
I
minute.
guess it would be in DPW though, right? It would be in,
Yeah, I think it would be, if I had to make a guess, and it would be because they had regular DPW uniforms. They had no special uniform reflective of, so it was whatever the regular DPW workers had, that's what they got. So I can't say that there's necessarily extra money in a sense that they, you know, because I don't know if they're down 2 workers and
Yeah,
I don't know.
can't speak to
Sorry.
that.
That's okay. That's why we have a department head and an auditor. Can't do everything, Jamie.
I tried.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
No, it's
Again.
okay. I'm just trying to anticipate questions for next Tuesday
course.
and have as many answers as possible. Because I know the uniforms actually agree, you know, and I think the DPW workers look great in their uniform when, you know, whether it's whatever they're doing, you know, on the streets, you know, whether they're working, you know, on a you know, resurfacing crew, whether they're picking up trash, recycling, mowing the grass. You know, I think it's great that they wear a uniform. And the boots, I think, are safety and certainly important for a lot of those jobs. And I understand that our enforcement officers need to look different because they're encountering people that don't always want to get a ticket.
So I have, they've spent $200 out of that for one of the employees. You said somebody is fairly new, so they probably haven't gotten that allowance yet.
Right, so I do know Carlos received the $200 boot allowance.
Well, if I can suggest that we separate the money needed for the uniforms, allowance for the boots and for renting the uniforms, as a transfer, you know, if the mayor will agree, as a transfer to next Tuesday, we can handle this different and probably make more sense out of it to the full city council. Is there any other questions about uniforms?
I just want clarity on
Yep.
something. So you want me to take the full uniform cost and I'll do the equipment is just the vehicles and then the uniform will go into the DPW?
Well, then we're going to need a second one for,
Expense.
you know, if we're going forward with the vehicles. There's vehicles, portable radios, and
Yeah. Uniforms.
uniforms. But I think we need to separate the uniforms.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I don't think uniforms should be necessarily in their budget. If it's a contractual thing, there should be one line item for the whole DPW.
Actually, they're all separated out, I believe, but I will check on that and just make sure it goes to the right spot. But I'll have that information for you.
That's fine. That's why you're the sheriff. Yeah. That was an editorial comment, and she just blew me off. Okay, if there's no more questions on uniforms. The next big thing is 2 vehicles. We've had a discussion. Are we here to talk about the vehicles too?
Yeah, we're here to talk about the whole proposal, so we're here to answer any questions you guys have.
So we got the quotes in front of us. We talked about that. The vehicle, the style of it, how it's used. I for one, you know, and I mentioned it earlier, understand, although now that there is the option of paying for parking by apps, it's a little bit safer, but you still have to collect parking meter coins and stuff and have a safe place to put them and get around a fairly large area. I'm not going to quote Councilor Jourdain, but he said, you know, this is nice, but it's an amenity. So I guess to help Councilor Jourdain or any other city councilor that's looking at this, maybe a second go at this as to why we need these.
So, absolutely, I can start. Do you want to start, Laura? Why don't I let Laura give some background as how this proposal came forward? Let me give her the background, and then I can talk about specifics as to why we selected these vehicles.
So this proposal came from me in regards to beefing up our parking control officers' uniforms and the way that they are currently collecting money throughout the city. It should be noted that on several occasions, because of a broken key, they were physically pushing a dolly with a recycling bin down the streets, collecting the coins out of our parking meters. And just to give some kind of reference to what kind of money they are pushing around, the coin machine has been broken several times by our deposits at the local bank. So the Federal Reserve actually stepped in and offered to have our coins shipped to them because the sheer volume of it was massive. So just like to date, it's been about $37,000 in coins that have been collected out of these meters. And these guys, there's a very specific coin holder that they have that allows the cartridges from the inside of the parking meter to connect to this carriage, we'll call it, that they push up and down the street and up and down the hills and so on and so forth. So there was mention of a Crown Vic that they were utilizing. They have used it a handful of times. It was more for getting to parking lots that they take care of. The cartridge that carries the coins, they couldn't possibly lift in and out of a vehicle. You can't lift the thing. It's extremely heavy. So, you know, obviously in the beginning when it's light and there's nothing in it, they could, but that vehicle is not anything that's appropriate for what they need. It's also not secure. It's certainly not secure to be doing it out of a recycling bin walking down the street. But so I think in terms of this vehicle, if it was something that could safely hold these cartridges locked into a vehicle, it would allow them to get around faster to the area that they currently patrol and clear out these parking meters that fill up very quickly. So that's, you know, one reason to advocate for them. But also they are responsible for mowing the areas around certain city-owned lots. And from what I'm being told, they drag or push the lawnmower from the DPW to these lots to maintain them. So again, I think that kind of comes back to people not taking them seriously in enforcement when they are doing these other projects, especially like schlepping a lawnmower up Dwight Street. But that's just one other thing. And I do just want to point out that just in parking ticket collections alone, with these two guys doing it from January 1st until today, have collected $76,590 just in parking tickets. And there's $38,910 that are still outstanding, so they're due. Parking tickets are something that we always collect on because it affects your license if it goes and remains unpaid. So, and that does not include the monthly parking tickets or the monthly parking passes that the DPW issues, and that does not include the coins that I previously referenced. So just in advocating for them, they do a great job. They enjoy their jobs. I hear from them pretty much daily. We have interactions with them. And I think there is a bigger conversation to be had about their roles and the ordinances that stem around where they can and cannot go right now anyway. But having a vehicle would mean that they could do these things faster, more efficiently, and certainly safer. There have been several instances where they have walking down the street and said, "What's in there? What do you got in there?" And we have parking meters that people jam screwdrivers into and break and take the coin canisters out. So it's, you know, I think it's mainly a safety concern having some kind of vehicle. Now that is up for debate, obviously, but some kind of vehicle that provides them with some kind of reassurance and safety, I think, is key for these two gentlemen who work hard in a very thankless job.
Electric or gas?
Yes. This is gas.
Had to ask.
And I can talk to part of the rationale as to why we picked this vehicle. So actually, Laura brought us the collection box. So we measured the collection box. We measured the dimensions of the Kubota, and it has been, we can do a mechanism for that box to be locked in the Kubota, so nobody can take that box out. They can then empty the meters with that thing and take it and put it on top of the collection box in the Kubota, and there's no more lifting back and forth. There's no more dragging this box down the street. So the Kubota is a 4-season vehicle, and you know, obviously Holyoke is up and down and side to side. So with the up and down of the hills, you know, we looked at what other parking authorities do. Springfield, for example, has smart cars, those teeny tiny smart cars. They just don't make sense here. With all the up and down of the hills, like, can you imagine those tiny little smart cars? I can just see it being stuck on Dwight Street in a bad storm here. You know what I'm saying? So we really looked at the rationale as to what would work for Holyoke, and these being 4-season utility vehicles that we currently have. We have them at the fire department. Parks and Rec uses these. So if something ever happened, like as you just mentioned, Counselor, if in 10 years we're New Wave and we're all online, these are easily repurposed vehicles, not like the Crown Vic that's been sitting around that nobody uses. These are investments that if we eliminate parking enforcement, Park and Rec will use these, fire department, police department. These are utility vehicles that are, they're just usable in other departments if this program ever got eliminated. So we were looking at what makes sense and what can we repurpose if anything if there was any changes in any type of programs. These vehicles are, you know, they're fully enclosed in the front. They have heat and AC. They're as good as a car, but just more, there's more uses for them. They go up to 25 miles an hour. They are road legal. We just thought that this was a good fit for this project. And Laura agreed too. They're going to be cheaper on gas than a regular vehicle. There's just a lot of benefits to going with this type of, especially in this community.
Currently, the mayor has a parking committee for, I'm not sure exactly what they're calling it. I hope both of you are on it or working with them.
I am on it.
Okay. Laura's on it and I work with them. Okay. So.
Because it's the potential, and Laura, you cited parking tickets, a little bit of parking meters. We have 2 parking structures and we have 3, 4 parking lots out there that we've lost control over their options for producing revenue. We have the potential of getting close to $200,000 a year if it was properly run. And somewhere along the line we lost sight. Safety became an issue, breaking in, vandalism, a lot of things. Right now, the last I heard, 50% of the meters are not operating. You know.
I don't know an exact number. I do know we also received the requests, the parking ticket appeals for broken meters. You know, I know a week or 2 ago they were asking about the meters with the actual functioning top part of the meter missing. They are vandalized frequently. They are intentionally, they jam coins and all sorts of other things in there. Yeah. Carlos and John do both try to maintain the parking meters and to fix them as well. So I did have a gentleman come out and look at when the key was broken for the mechanism. You know, there's like one company left that maintains these kind of parking meters. You can actually find them on eBay selling for like $500. They're vintage. But so yeah, I mean, with the parking committee review that's happening, I'm waiting for what their results are. Carlos and John worked with them when they were coming around doing their study. But there is a lot of revenue that can be made from here, obviously. And if we were fully functioning and, you know, updated some of our ordinances in regards to the parking, like I said, certain areas where, like there's a stipulation that they can't go past Front Street down Dwight Street. And we have a lot of issues with people parking on the bridges there and blocking coming in and out of Fame. You know, and creating issues there, but because of the ordinances, they aren't supposed to go there. So then in return, they get a lot of flack from people in this area saying they are targeting them, but they're area is very limited because they are on foot and because of the many different hats that they wear within this position.
And it's not a business that we want to be in to make a profit, but parking enforcement pays for the service. Parking is a commodity that, whether it's retail downtown, government services, any type of services, that people need to have the option to have a place that they know they can park in for a couple hours. And we need to enforce that. We need to enforce people who are working downtown, to be parking in the decks. We need to pay for the decks, the debt service, the bonds that we use to build and rebuild the Suffolk Street deck itself. So to me, it makes a lot of sense, and I thank both of you for. I think they speak. Well, anybody has any questions, of course, but I don't think we have to go into great detail. It's two, I call them walkie-talkies, but two radios, battery,
there was a
backup
question
batteries.
I would like to address as to why these are a little bit more expensive and why do they have to be 2 channels. So again, back to Laura's point, as this came forward out of her office in the reservations and quite frankly the safety issues, when these guys were telling us about that, they've been spit on, they've had cans thrown at them. I mean, the horror stories of the things that they have to deal with to just collect a couple quarters to turn it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was horrific. So they need a radio with a direct channel to the police and a channel to the DPW, who is their supervisors, because they have been in numerous dangerous situations where they call the DPW to call police to support them, and by the time the police get there, they could be dead. You know what I'm saying? So we have identified that giving them a radio, a 2-channel radio with a police channel and with a DPW channel, it just helps with their safety. And in addition to help keeping these streets safe, these guys are on the streets. If they see something, they have a police line. They can call things in. Like, it's another employee on the street advocating for safety in Holyoke. And with the job they do, carrying money and things like that, they should have a direct line to the police department. It only makes sense. So that's why we went with the 2-channel radios. The police department completely supports it and approves it. They too think that they should have that type of resource.
Thank you. And the one other question I'm going to ask for someone else, because it was asked at the last committee meeting and the person's not here, is why 2 Kubotas? Why not just one that can be shared?
Well, I believe that some of the things Laura spoke to, that the goal is to span out, and they don't need to be together. They can be separate, and they have so many different hats to wear that they're doing. One of them might have to be over there cleaning the parking lots, mowing the lawn. They need that Kubota to put the lawnmower in, to take it over there, while we still have the other employee focusing on collections. Our goal is to have somebody collecting at all times, and because of the multi-functions of their positions, that they need 2 vehicles. They can't always be together. If we want somebody to always be focused on collection and getting this money, they need to be able to have 2 vehicles to do different things.
They are also asked to patrol or keep a watchful eye on our parking lots. There's been several calls about safety and cars being broken into, so it would allow one of them to patrol a lot faster while somebody else is out collecting or fixing or maintaining. So just to reiterate Jamie's point, it would provide more boots on the ground, more or less, in terms of successfully doing their jobs.
Not a question I would ask you tonight, but I wonder if it's good use of their time mowing grass and cleaning parking lots, watching parking lots. I agree, but I think that could be a separation to other employees that do that on a regular basis. But that's not a question for tonight. That might be down the road.
But just to speak to that, because that is a point of contention that has come up. Not that they are not willing to do these other tasks that they are asked to do. I think it does also go back to a level of respect that is given to somebody who is cleaning up lots and then turning around and trying to take, to hold somebody accountable for an enforcement reason. I think it diminishes any kind of authority that they should have in terms of what their position is.
Understood. And just the time element, you know, the enforcement is the key here, I think, was what they should be doing. I'm asking too many questions. Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from anybody online? Councilor Thomas.
Yeah, you stated how on the vehicles and the uniform, we're going to separate this. So is they going to come in with a different, break it up to
that'd be up to the mayor, and actually I shouldn't be doing it by myself. If the committee, however we want to do it, we can ask the auditor to talk to the mayor about separating it. So at least we'll give the full city council an explanation.
Right.
Thank you, ladies. And also an answer, you know, to where the uniform money is going, which makes more sense. And then, you know, the radios and the vehicles, however it pans out, you know, would go into, you know, their own item under capital outlay, and probably in their budget. But I think it just makes sense to separate it, not just for voting purposes, but for clarity purposes.
Right. I just want to state that I agree. I think it's important that these individuals have the right equipment to get out there. And of course, you know, I see them out there, but I don't encounter what they encounter, probably, the difficulties. And I've thought about several times seeing them, I don't know who it was, but maybe it was a couple of years ago, trying to drag one of those things that's almost like on a thing, like a jowl, you know, the things you carry with the big, I don't know, what do you call it? Yeah, like a dolly, you know, or something with that. And to have a vehicle where they could have the money locked in and secured. And I didn't realize the amount of money that came in every year just on tickets. Yeah. You know, because, you know, I hear about tickets. So whether they pay them or did they get, you know, written off to, you know, does the ticket go through your office? Does it go through the clerk's office?
The ticket goes through my office.
Okay, so they come in and they say it's a $20 ticket. So they just pay it. Or they don't pay it.
Not always.
Right, right.
Ideally, yes, that is what they do. Or they come in with an appeal, which it then goes to the city solicitor's office. They determine whether or not it's a valid appeal. We do see a lot of, you know, expired handicap and things of that nature, and parking passes, you know, when the month shifts, things like that. So a lot of those get voided out, but it's about 65% of the number of tickets, which just between the two of them wrote 3,404 tickets this year. So 65, what? 3,404 tickets were written.
That's a lot.
And 65% of that is collected on 25%, 27% is outstanding, and 8 has been voided. So we have really worked diligently to find a good, so it's not a waste of their time writing tickets, so they are, you know, sure to be documenting the tickets properly, and so we're seeing less voided tickets and more revenue. Right,
and I think safety of our employees is number one. You know, the safety and what they wear and how they travel. And we've heard the thing about the old Crown Vic and how, you know, it's on its last legs and putting stuff in there. And can somebody break a window? You're out collecting in a box and they take the money. And you know, and as my colleague Councilor McGivern stated, and I know there's a lot of them that I remember 4 or 5 years ago. A lot of these things are down. A lot of the meters. And we had one company that was even hard to get the parts for. Yes. You know, I don't know if there's new ones now, but I think there's definitely a lot of revenue we can get out there in having these employees with the right equipment. I think equipment is number one, what they're driving in. And my thoughts too were, as my former colleague that was here the other night, you know, why can't you get one? But I think you made a point about the 2 vehicles, how, you know, you can spread them out and do 2 different areas. You know, instead of having these 2 guys going around and, okay, they got, you know, $800 today in meters, but you got 2 and now you get $1,500, $1,600 because they're in different areas of the city. So I think that's important too. But I think what the chairman stated, I think there should be a separation, and maybe the auditor can do that and talk to the mayor to have it, you know, the uniform part and the radios, you know, separate. And then the vehicles on another line, but
So the dollar amount we're still asking for is the same, but we can just do that separation of the line transfer.
If they can do that, and and then it comes to the vote for the full council. It's not just on us. I mean, but I believe in you, and I believe it's important.
And we would just ask you to, consider and strongly urge that you take the number that Laura brought in. Since January, they've collected over $70,000. That's $10,000 more than what
Jamie,
we're asking.
the number I want to hear is when that parking committee does their work and we get back on track. That
it's going to double if we're only at 50%, Counselor.
Double is just right there. It's going to more than double.
More than double, right? Yeah. Yeah. I'm all set.
Thank you. Yeah. Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies, thank you for this very, very thought out explanation of what the City Council had previously. I just want to state for the record, I will definitely be voting for this. It's a no-brainer. As Chair McGivern mentioned, this is something that the city has fallen back on, and as was it Laura that mentioned it? How much how much was generated in tickets? This is a no-brainer. This will definitely pay itself off easily, and we're helping these gentlemen be more productive and in a safety manner. So I see a ton of benefits that we've been lacking on. So this is a 100% approval by me. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Counselor, for your support.
Laura, the amount for the taken out of the parking meters, what was that number?
When I looked at out of the meter, when I looked at it today, it was just over 37,000.
The meters are not. We can't use an app on a meter yet, right?
Right. The app is, well,
we had a few.
You can use it in place of a meter in certain spots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we have been trying to work with the Park Mobile app in regards to getting more signage, because we get a lot of complaints about that. A lot of complaints about even our parking deck, the sign, they don't see it, so on and so forth. But trying to encourage that as well if people want to pay that way, but truthfully most people don't know how to use it, don't read the signs, and so I think that's where it's
not very friendly.
The coins, yeah, I do hear that a lot.
It was 30,000 in coins, but I think part of this proposal tool is they write tickets, so it's not just the coinage they bring in. They need these vehicles to go across the city and write tickets for illegal parking. So what was the money they brought in for tickets, Laura?
$76,590.
That's another number, Counselor.
Tanya, do we know how much money is generated for monthly parking?
I don't have that at the moment, but what I can do is send it over to you.
Thank you. And the reason I ask is these two positions, but the whole parking scheme itself is revenue producing.
Yes.
So the argument is that will pay for this, and it's something, to me, makes it much. And I thank you, because I was on the edge after the first meeting. It just, a lot of the questions were good questions. The answers weren't quite there, but it makes a lot more sense.
Counselor McGee already yelled at me for taking a vacation. He said, "How dare you?" when we had questions for you. Jokingly, of course.
Councilor Pueblo.
Can you just clarify, is it normally just one specific fee? I mean, maybe you don't know. What's a parking ticket? What does that cost?
It ranges. There's 20, 25, handicap is 300. Oh, wow. Yeah, so we have seen, and I mean, I have the reports that show a breakdown of how many tickets of what kind that they issue, where they issue it. That was shared with the parking committee.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think that's like 10 tickets per day. You said like 3,600 or something, right?
I believe Carlos today did 25 just today, because I ran the numbers yesterday and it was up by about 25 today. They really are fantastic employees. They appreciate their job. It is a tough job. I have pictures of not so kind notes that are left behind for these guys who are just doing their job. And I can kind of appreciate it. You know, lots of people yelling at you. Nobody is happy to get a parking ticket, obviously. But, you know, they generally do it with cool heads and just say, we're just trying to do our job. And if we can do anything to help make them more official in the sense that they are able to do this job, when I see this kind of revenue coming in, you know, for me, it's a no-brainer to advocate for it, because there's really a lot of potential for growth with Race Street and everything that is happening down there, and the parking situation just in the city as a whole. But if, you know, it's my hope that their area is expanded so they can, you know, collect on this.
And we haven't even talked about those storefront owners that come outside because they think they can park their car in front of their store and not pay for anything.
Correct. And we have a handful of handicap spots that are taken up by store owners who park there all day long. And Carlos and John have consulted with the solicitor's office in regards to, you know, what the Mass General laws are about that, because then we see handicap parking in crosswalks and you know all these other unsafe places, you know, right against the curb, in front of fire hydrants. You know, these are things we don't want to see for the safety of our city. So
one thing I learned is that you have a handicap placard, you can park in a meter zone and not pay.
Yes.
You don't have to have a handicap parking, you know, designation.
Yes.
You can park anywhere.
Correct.
But
Not in front of a fire hydrant.
not in front of a fire hydrant.
Not
everywhere.
crosswalk.
But and the other thing we didn't mention too, which is a hard part, very hard part, is with the meters is the 2-hour maximum, which is very hard to enforce. But the vehicle would help them, you know, do that much easier.
Yes, and the guys currently try to do a pretty good job. I think they're also relatively reasonable. They are not hounding, you know, they're not hounding people, but with the limited area that they are able to enforce. I mean, so they are very aware of somebody that's parked in a spot for over an hour, or, you know, in our lot over 15 minutes. And I don't know if you know, but during the day here, coming back from lunch as a City Hall employee, there's generally no parking at all. And so we have a lot of employees that are in the 15-minute, and then that hurts the people that are trying to visit. So it, you know, a lot of court dealings happening. So we really are trying to get a better handle on all of it, but also just trying to help them.
If you look at the ordinance, those signs are off in the parking. We changed them 7-8 years ago. You know, to put more 15-minute parking right up front, to move the mayor, those 2 city councilor parking spots that I take advantage of one, around the corner. We moved the city clerk, and we moved, I think, the custodians to create more 15-minute parking, you know, for people that have to come in, do business, and get out. And my window in the courthouse, I know who's parking in the parking deck that shouldn't be, you know, and it's not all people going into the courthouse. There's some people going across the street here on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
You know, and I talk to Carlos a lot, you know, and he tries to stay on top of it, but it can only be one place at one time.
He could be in more places faster with the Kubota.
Yes. Councilor Paul.
Can I just clarify? So you said these are street legal? Yeah. So it's going to be registered, insured, and all that? Yes. Is that a recurring cost, or is that like some kind of city program?
It's like it's like oh, my microphone wasn't on. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it's like any of our other city vehicles. They are registered. They will have plates.
And we have a blanket policy.
Right. We do, correct.
You know, for the entire everybody, and we try to get that police department to give up those Crown Vics and give them up, because they're still registered and still insured, and if they're not being used, it makes no sense. They are fast, though. I've driven one to Boston. They are real fast.
25 miles an hour here.
Not too fast.
Not these, the Crown Vic.
Yeah, these. Yeah.
Joe, what you're saying is you broke the law by speeding.
Yeah. Councilor Anderson Burgos, you woke up.
His hand wasn't up either.
Yeah, I didn't recognize you.
Yeah, you're not recognized.
Joe.
Councilor Dahlman.
Yeah, just briefly again, and I like what you had to say about these vehicles are all purpose. if some reason we don't need them for the parking, then eventually, you know, we could still utilize these at DPW, police, fire. And I know I've seen a couple of these around in different areas. I've been at the base. We've already had them at the air base over at BYRNE. So they're definitely, you know, good vehicles to have around. And it's not like it would be like you're throwing away money. It's something that utilized. Yeah, it's vehicles that are well, like all-terrain, and they're utility vehicles basically, and used for different departments.
And it's a uniform fleet. Part of the mayor's vision is to have a uniform fleet where all of our vehicles are reflective. Like, you know, we don't have mismatched, you know, it's part of our uniform fleet that just makes us a municipality and professional.
Yeah, it's important.
All the other things that we're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think it's time. I mean, because you know, being uniform, you know, having the right uniform, having the right equipment, the right vehicles is really most important. Yeah.
Any further discussion? The chair will ask that we refer this back to the full city council with the anticipation that the mayor will separate out the cost for the uniforms into a separate transfer, and the balance for the vehicles and radios with the batteries and stuff that go with the radios. Is there any further discussion?
I'll second that. Councilor, Mr. Chairman, is that, so there'll be three different?
There'll be two.
Two.
I would anticipate two orders. One that would be capital outlay from stabilization for vehicles and radios.
Okay, vehicle
and
and
one
radios.
would be
uniform.
I'm not saying it can't come from capital stabilization, but into the line item uniform. The line item uniform is contractual. We've already voted on the contract, so if that, you know, because there's one new employee and actually two employees that need uniforms, and if there's not enough money in that line item, we're kind of obligated to appropriate it.
To do that.
Did you want me to separate it to three or just
Two. I think it's two, right?
Okay.
I think two. Well, what do you think?
Oh, she can do three. I can do three.
I don't mind the two, but I don't mind the three. The two, the equipment can be included in the capital outlay line. So
I'm you know,
I'm okay with, I mean,
not complicated, but you know, what do you guys think?
Oh, yeah, you guys can do two. That's fine.
I think two would be good. Just as long as you get the uniform separate.
Yeah.
And then the vehicles and the radios on another one. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that the vehicles, two vehicles, two radios are one-time expenses.
Right.
So that's that. You know, and then uniforms are a little different, but up front one time, but ongoing. All right, the motion on the floor then, if there's no further discussion, all those in roll call. Councilor Powell?
Yes.
Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Councilor McGivern? Yes. Okay, so that's 401, and that'll go to the full city council next Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
you, councilors, for your support.
No more vacations, Jamie.
Yeah, no more.
Vacations. I'm gonna eat these all. Yeah, stop.
No, those look good. I can't start on chocolate.
Motion to take up item.
Item number 2, off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. This is going to be quick. At the request of this is the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant. This is a reoccurring grant that actually comes in 2 to 3 times a year. This one will be at some time for $49,920 at the request of the police department, at the request of the state. They want to, they were asking us to lay this on the table. It's not going to happen until next year. And Tanya, I'm not sure why they want us to lay it on the table, but because it may be a whole different, the information might be the same, but I mean, it might be a different amount, might be a lot of different things by next year. But at the request of the PD, does that make sense, just to keep it here in finance?
That would be fine, and I can check on that item with them as well.
So if there's any questions,
Motion to table.
motion second to table, roll call. No roll call because of our motion.
Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. On the table.
Motion to take up item 3.
Motion made second. We take up item number 3. Introduced under my name for the mayor. Request from the city clerk is a transfer to be appropriated in fiscal 2024 for $5,000. This will come from election officers, $5,000, into equipment building rentals, $5,000. Off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. We have a communication dated today from Brenna McGee, city clerk. Dear Chairman McGivern and members of the Finance Committee, my apologies for not being able to attend the meeting, but I'd like to speak and address the following transfer request. As read, the $5,000 It's to pay for the yearly maintenance agreements for the new voting machines as well as the software for used for election day. We have transferred monies from the election officers line item as we are planning to receive funding of reimbursement from the state for the upcoming presidential primary. If you have any questions regarding the transfer, I'm happy to answer them on Tuesday night at the full City Council meeting. Respectfully submitted, Brendan McGee. The rental and makes sense. The machines are new software. It's incredible how votes are cast, and they're in City Hall before you can drive down here.
Yeah, right.
And the understood that this is a presidential election, so we get reimbursed for a lot of costs for the elections, but you have to spend it before you get reimbursed. So she has a little surplus in that line item. Is there any motion? Any questions?
No. Motion to approve the transfer.
Motion made second. We approve the transfer. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote. Councilor Plowell?
Yes.
Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Councilor McGivern, yes. 401, go to the full City Council next week. Item number 4.
Motion to take up item 4.
Motion made second. We take item 4 off the table for discussion. Introduced under my name. For the mayor, that there is appropriation transfer fiscal 2024 of $30,240 from capital stabilization, $30,240 to War Memorial Outlay Building Improvement. On the motion to take off the table, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. With us, we have Sean Sheedy. Sean, yes, Sean's online. Sean, welcome. Would you like to walk us through this? We understand capital stabilization, but would you like to walk us through where it's going and how this money would be used?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me tonight. And so this is the $30,240 is for the increase under the War Memorial elevator project that's going on. So this is to cover the cost of the low bid that came in higher than what I had anticipated. It came in higher than what the consultant anticipated. We figured about $100,000 to do the job total. The low bid came in at $120,800. So this $30,240 is to cover that cost. Currently, right now, I have remaining in the account. I have $90,560. The $9,440 was for the consultant fee. His job is pretty much done. We have basically one more meeting with him, myself, Ted, and the elevator company we're gonna award the bid to on Friday. And that is to cover the scope of the work and make sure everybody's on the same page. They understand what we want from them. And once we feel comfortable with that meeting, we're gonna go ahead and move forward with the low bid. The low bid was Worcester Elevator. We had 2 bids on this. We had a pre-bid walkthrough prior to the bids being due. We had, I believe there was either 1 or 2 companies came out, and then we had 2 companies that bid on the job. And the higher bid was significantly higher, a little bit of $37,000 more than the low bid. So we have to obviously go with the low bid on this one.
Sean, the low bid company is reputable and everybody's comfortable with their workmanship?
Yeah, absolutely. And so they have their bid bond. They met all the criteria through procurement. And like I said, on Friday, we're going to do our scope review with them just to get finalized and make sure that they understand the job fully, completely, and everybody's on board, including the consultant.
And the scope of the project, is it a new elevator or just taking care of the existing one?
No, so it's going to be replacing the jack, which is the piston that raises the cart up and down. That's what failed. It failed internally, whether it was the seals, the piston itself. So the motor that runs the hydraulic system is still good. The electrical is still good. The cart itself is still good. So we're just replacing the piston that failed and the safety door edge, which that failed under compliance. So that's going to get replaced also. And so once both of those get done and repaired and replaced, we'll get it fully inspected for the year again, and we'll be back into compliance.
Thank you, and you just jogged my memory. That's what you told us the first time you came in for the original transfer.
Yeah, and it was a little delayed getting it out there, working with the consultant, having the survey done, making sure that the consultant understood the full scope of the work, and in writing up the technical specs and the bid specifications, and then getting it put out there properly to procure it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, thanks, Sean, for coming in. You stated that the amount for the consultant, was that about $9,000?
Yeah, so $9,440.
Okay, and is that something that's about range? Is that about approximate what that would be? I mean, did you expect that, or yeah?
Yeah, that was what I had originally estimated for when I first came to the council back under when we did it under free cash.
Right.
And so I got quotes, and I went with the lower consultant and stayed under the 10 for his services, which were instrumental in this, because I wouldn't be able to write the bid specs or the technical specifications like they can in vertical transportation. They know every single piece of it, what the company has to supply, the type of jack, the type of workmanship, and everything that goes along with it.
Okay, and what would this do replacing this this part, the piston and the field, the internal part? What would this give for the lifespan of this elevator now?
So this was done, right now it's 36 years old, I believe, 35 years old. So it's lasted that long from the original. So you're looking at another 30, 40 years. Okay, so
more than likely with these parts in there, it'll give it extend its lifespan, and unless something else goes on it, it's unlikely, right? Or is it hard to tell?
The only other two key pieces would be the cart itself, and maybe say some electrical within the cart, or the hydraulic motor that pushes it. But those parts, say down the road 5-10 years, say something like that, Phil, you could change that out also. So doing this work doesn't pigeonhole us into not being able to fix the other stuff if that were to happen.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
Councilor Anderson Burgos. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure that we acknowledge and thank the chair of Soldiers Memorial Commission, Lottie. Hi, Lottie. Just wanted to say thank you for coming in.
Thank you, everyone. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Sean, for all your hard work and dedication.
Absolutely. Thank you for your services.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Lottie, thank you, and I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. And again, you did a great job emceeing the Veterans Day ceremony.
Yes, you sure did. Yeah.
You know?
Thank you so much. I was extremely nervous, but it was such an honor.
It didn't show. You were wonderful.
Did it great.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded that we approve the transfer. If there's no further discussion, we'll call a roll call. Councilor Powell.
Yes.
Councilor Tallman.
Yes.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Councilor McGivern, yes. Passes 4-0-1. Sean, Landy, that will go to the full city council next Tuesday. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Landy.
Thank you, councilors. Thank you.
Motion to take item number 5 off the table.
Second.
For discussion.
Motion made second, we take item 5 off the table for discussion under my name for the mayor. The city council subsidized the revenue for the sewer budget from the tax levy for fiscal 2024. The amount is at $1,039,680, and remainder funded by sewer receipts. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but the auditor, the mayor, has signed off on this, and there's a reason this is here, and a reason we need to take action before tomorrow night. So off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye. Any
opposed? So moved. Tanya, are you taking the lead on this?
Sure, I can take the lead. I can explain.
Thank you.
Okay. With your order for the subsidy for the sewer fund, I actually put in the Schedule A2 form that we submit to our tax recap, so we can set the tax rate. Do you have that?
Yep.
Because what I'll do is I'll just go over this form quickly for you so you can get a better understanding. Yep. So within the tax recap, one of the things that is covered with and subsidized by the general fund is enterprise funds. if you take a look at that form, you can go to number 1 and you can see enterprise revenues and available funds. Our total revenues, what the DLS will let you claim is only as high as you collected the previous year, unless you change your tax rate. If you increase your tax rate for the amount of billing that you can send out, they will let you offset your revenues for the next year. So as you know, we did not vote on that, so we could only use 2023 revenues for 2024 estimates. And you can just see that the regular user charges, which includes industrial, was 8.8 million. We had some other revenues come in, some fees, admin charges for 76, and our investment income was 33 because the money goes into its own bank account. So the total revenues for the fiscal year of 2024 is 8.9 million. But the actual budget that was appropriated for that sewer enterprise fund was 9.9 million. So if you take the difference of what your revenues are expected to be and what your expenses are expected to be, if you go on to the second page of the A2 form, you're gonna see that 1,039,000 subsidy. So what happens is this subsidy will get tacked on automatically to your rate and to your general fund if you don't come up with another source of revenue to cover the subsidy. So we could take it from stabilization or other available revenues, but that is not what we chose to do. And I think one of the things that does hold us back is that we didn't have all of our revenues posted for the year, so we didn't actually know what our subsidy was going to be. And we also had the tax rate out there that we weren't sure if that was going to be voted on or not. So it was kind of up in the air until, you know, pretty much this moment. So we just took what was entered into and voted on to this time, and that's how we came up with this subsidy. Do you have any questions?
Just a few. Some I'm anticipating for Tuesday and some that are my own. Number one, and I've asked you this, Tanya, but I just want to get it on the record. We're in the middle of a fiscal year. And the revenues from, first of all, the revenues from fiscal 2023, have they been closed out? Are they reconciled?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the arrears, uncollectibles for 2023?
So I'm going to say, and I had a conversation with the DPW as well, the city does not account for their revenue like that. So instead of especially in Munis, they have actually a different billing system at the DPW for the sewer. And so we don't do that in Munis, but it doesn't say these are 2018 receivables and 2018 collections. These are 2020 receivables and 2020 collections. It's all in one pot. So I can't tell what is from the revenues that we're making. I can't tell if that's from a previous year or the current year. So that's something that I did have a conversation with Carl about, because I thought that in their billing system, when they made the payments, maybe we could see that. But they also do not have that information. So they do write off, some of their bills and things like that they know are uncollectible. But when they're writing them off, I don't know. They're getting written off in the current year. They're not getting written off against a receivable from a previous year if it's old. So that's super difficult for us to track. So that's something I'd like to work on.
If we build X amount of dollars for a quarter,
right?
We don't know what was not paid?
So we know the commitments. I can tell you what I see, because I'm not familiar with their system. So within Munis is a receivables, and it's sewer receivables, and we will book all the commitments for that year. So I can definitely tell you how much we billed, but when we bring in the payments don't have a year on them. So that could have been a previous year's payment. It could be a current year payment. So I can't tell from year to year what's not paid. So I don't have a list of outstanding bills, collectibles from previous years, because when we were trying to get the collection rate together, I made an assumption that the previous year's receivables are collected in the current year, but that's an assumption. I can't say that for sure because there's no documentation. And I've not seen the system to be able to even know.
Is that something that can be changed and
Absolutely.
should be changed?
I agree. I just thought Munis was like that, to be honest. I thought maybe their billing system itself was different, and when they did collections, it was posted to a year, so they would be able to give me some more solid financial information. But when I had a conversation with them the other day, they said that they can't tell the difference either. They just see the total payments, which I'm not sure because I'm not familiar with what they do for billing, but I would definitely be willing to take a look at it.
So we're in the middle of the fiscal year.
Yes.
We're halfway through it. Same thing with the wastewater treatment plant. It's an enterprise fund, so I think we understand that it's connected to the municipal budget if there's any deficiencies. This is an estimated deficiency by
Yes.
the budget versus what we collected last year. What if we collect more than last year this year?
It will go into your retained earnings, and then it will come back to the city as retained earnings, just like your free cash.
Will it reduce this amount, or?
It will not reduce the amount, but what you can do is if it comes back to you in retained earnings, you can appropriate it right back into the general fund if that's what you wish.
It becomes kind of a wash, but when does this raise the tax levy?
This does raise the tax levy. Yes, it does.
If the sewer rate was adjusted, would this number be less?
Yes. If
Too
it was
late for
done
that.
before the first of the year, we could say that the billings would be January through June, so we could reduce it. We could reduce this by that figure.
It's not the full year, but it would be one or
Yep,
two
just whatever
quarters.
you can
Yeah.
bill it for, yeah.
Okay. And any other options the mayor would have to reduce this? I mean, tomorrow night, well, before we get to tomorrow night, I mean, budget cuts, but we went through this budget during the budget hearings.
Yes.
And we talked to the mayor and to Carl Rossi and even to the DPW Commission people, Board of Public Works Commission. It's kind of hard to cut a budget at this point of the game. But the one question that's going to come up is removing street sweeping and other items that are in the budget. You know, it's not, to me, it's I agree with it in principle. It's not a significant number. It is a number that, you know, belongs in the regular budget.
Mm-hmm. And that would just, even if that was removed now and you moved it over, it still would be a $500,000 increase to your general fund budget. Unless you were going to cut it from somewhere else. So whether it's in the general fund or in the sewer for right now, it still exists as a cost.
Okay.
Right.
So half of this is a wash.
What do you mean?
Well, the taxpayers are paying for it no matter what, is what you just said.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
You know, it should be the ratepayers, not the taxpayers.
I think we could do more on our side too in the tracking of collections and receivables, and that's something I did learn this year. So
That's, yes, that is important. You know,
Agreed.
Very important.
Yeah.
Okay. So just, and then we absolutely open up this for questions, but just so everybody hears this, if the city council fails to pass this appropriation, if we fail to recognize it for whatever reason, what happens to the to our tax, our final tax? The tax rate's been set, you know, for all intents and purposes once the levy's set, you know, and this is reflected in the vote we take tomorrow night. Tax classification is the shifting of the tax rate from residential to commercial. But if we do not, this is our final vote tomorrow night before the end of the second quarter, the beginning of the third quarter, where we're required by Mass General law, by law, to set a final tax rate. If we don't approve this, what will DLS do?
They said they wouldn't approve our tax rate.
And then we'd have no final tax rate, and the last time that happened, we had to borrow money for 3 months.
I'm glad I wasn't here for that.
You weren't here, but we did that.
Any questions from the committee? Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, thank you for explaining. Sometimes the numbers get me a little bit confused here, Tanya, but thanks for explaining that. So on the rate for number 2 on the Schedule A, so the salary and wages you're saying are $8,042,000 for next year, for the fiscal year, for the
revenues.
Okay, but it says salaries, wages, and expenses on number 2, appropriated.
Yeah, so that is actually coming from the budget.
Okay.
So well, I don't have a copy of the tax recap. I don't think I gave that to you.
I think we got it somewhere in our phone.
Yeah, if you go into that recap on page 4, you're going to see your sewer budget in there.
Okay.
So, you know, they have the personal services, the expenses, and the capital outlay. So that would be all expenses, salaries, wages, and all expenses is the $8 million.
In the capital outlay, can you explain that? The 1.9?
That's debt payments.
Okay. Okay. So that's the total cost would be the 9. I'm trying to think how if we could have got this number lower if we had our estimated revenues higher than the ones from the previous year, but you said they can't use.
They will not let you do that.
Okay. Okay. Because actually that could change your investment income a little bit, and it could have changed your whole number.
Yeah, the one thing that they did let us do that I appreciate is with our industrial billings, they will allow us to use the billings towards the current year revenues. So we had a 2023 deficit and a 2024 deficit. But because we had billings that we had not collected, they allowed us to use some of those towards our revenues.
Okay.
So I think they just tried to have a fair practice. So they didn't make us write off 2023, but what they're saying is in 2024 you can use your 2023 revenues, but we have to consider the fact that you also have expenses that aren't out there either. So like for example, we've spent $896,000 on pipes and things that busted. We are not budgeting for those types of expenses, and technically we could do an average forecast and say, oh, that's around $350,000. We're not budgeting that either. See what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of like giving and taking. Give and take.
Okay.
Negotiating.
Okay. So basically, what you're saying is the funds that we're going to collect for 24 are $8.9 million, but we need $9.9 million. That's what we're saying. Okay, we're going to throw in another $1,039,000 to keep us square, because we didn't increase the sewer rate because we still have questions about how much is coming in, how much should be charged to the city. So that's the big difference.
And if you were to vote on an increased sewer rate at this time, just remember that money is still going to be coming in whether it's forecasted or not.
Right.
So that will go towards your retained earnings, and it will also go towards your 2024 actual receipts. So next year you can budget higher.
A little bit higher. Okay. So on this, just to get it clear and maybe for the public, and so I can understand better, the $1,139,000 brings us up to the levy that we're at now. Is it like 63 million?
Yes. Yep. It's included in that.
In that. So that's where our vote comes in tomorrow night to set the tax classification.
And that actually has since the beginning of us submitting a tax recap information to you.
It's changed.
That has decreased, by like $384,000 or something like that.
Okay.
So that's a good thing.
And if this was paid originally with the higher rate through the ratepayers, it might be like 62 million instead of 63 million as a levy, and that way the tax rate may not go up as much.
Yeah.
So that's where we're hoping to raise that money for next year.
The 803 rate that I think Abraham.
Right, Abraham.
That's how you say it.
Yeah.
So with that 803 rate, if we would have voted on that and we could have billed it from January to June, that would have been like an extra $500,000 that we could have put towards this deficit.
This deficit. And that would have been on the ratepayers, basically.
Yeah.
An extra so much for those 2 quarters.
Yeah.
And then it would have been a little less on the taxpayers.
Yeah, and it would have shifted
A
with the
little bit.
additional revenue. Yeah, they'll let you take the difference times the amount that you bill out for the sewer.
Okay. I guess all these years, Joe, you've been right. Right? The taxpayer, the ratepayer should be paying for it, but the taxpayers are going to end up paying for it, right? That's the way it goes, I guess.
No response. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I would just like to clarify a couple things. So before tonight, we needed to raise the 63+ million in the tax levy. And this transfer is not changing the budget from what we voted in the final budget meeting, correct?
I think I would define budget. So this enterprise budget is part of the total overall budget for the whole city,
Correct.
but it's not a part of the appropriations, if that makes
Correct.
sense. Okay.
Correct, but it's in the total number. So when
Yes.
people are saying that it's going to increase the tax liability, it's not increasing the tax liability to do this transfer tonight. The tax liability is already in the budget that was approved by the council, correct? That amount is there. We're not increasing the 63 million that was already established.
Right. So what I had done is I had added in the subsidy prior to right when we did the budget. So the figure that you have is accurate, that 63 million, and it does include this 1 million. Yes.
Yes.
I think that's
so this action isn't changing
No.
the effect on the taxes from anything that had already happened.
Yep, that's accurate because it was already in there. Yes.
Thank you. And the other point that I'd like to make is that $600,000 that is a citywide service is a material number in this discussion. And that portion is now officially documented as being an appropriate amount to be coming from the tax levy rather than the ratepayers. And as one of the taxpayers that isn't on the sewer rate, I'll speak for myself that I don't have a problem paying out of my taxes for services that are citywide as a homeowner that can't access sewer services. I don't have a problem with that. And I will add that I'm very much looking forward to the rest of the analysis of things that are citywide that will properly belong in the general fund. And I think that we will find, once we complete the analysis of the storm water basins that are serviced throughout the city through the sewer fund, that also is something that will properly be paid out of the general fund. So I think at the end of the day, when you put together all of the years that the ratepayers have been theoretically charged for the citywide services such as the street sweeping, I think it'll come out pretty much a wash for those of us who have paid through our taxes to offset the sewer losses, because at the very beginning of this contract, services that were not only dedicated to sewer were dumped into the contract. And so they were buried in all the numbers. And I'm very much looking forward to what the more thorough analysis that we have funded will show us. But I think it will probably show that this transfer that we're doing is probably just about right for the services that do benefit the city as a whole. So I thank you for recognizing that portion of it that we have been able to document, And I very much look forward to next year when we're able to get a much better handle on it overall. So thank you, Tanya.
Any further discussion? And Councilor Bacon, although I agree with you, and I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just one of those property owners that pays the sewer rate and pays property tax. And
I was just thinking
the double billing is something that I get upset with. Although you have a good point, and we have to correct it for not this year. This kind of washes it this year, but the future council and mayor have to correct that. Hopefully it'll
yes,
be.
And yes.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I did direct that to you.
Thank you. And if I can just add, I would also note that we have at least a 5% gap between the higher collections that we had on the sewer rate and the current collection rate on the sewer rates. And that affects both the ratepayers and the taxpayers. So to the extent that we tighten that back up, that amounts to many thousands of dollars when we raise that collection rate from 89 or 90 to 95 or 96. So I would note that as well. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to, let's say, subsidize the sewer budget? Tax levy?
To subsidize revenue.
By $1,039,680.
I'll second.
A motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call. Councilor Powell?
Yes.
Councilor Dahlman?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson-Burgos?
Yes.
Councilor McGivern? Yes. 401. We'll get this to the full city council out of committee, and if we can just go on record, to the full city council tomorrow night.
Absolutely, I'll second that. Yeah, for the tax classification.
Just amended, but I think that all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
That we can do under your other vote. Thank you. One last item.
Motion to take item number 6 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second. We take item 6 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This is a communication. It's actually a copy of the communication that is referred to the full city council periodically, at least once a year, sometimes a couple times a year. And it's projected the annual appropriation needed for the retirement fund. It comes from the retirement board itself. It went to the retirement board itself. It comes from John W. Parsons, executive director. This appropriation is for fiscal year 2025. The date of this communication and it was November 21st, 2023. With a $19,197,843 projection. The Commission is hereby furnishing with this amount to be appropriated from your retirement system for fiscal year 2025. Commences July 1, 2024. Attached, please find a portion of the fiscal 2025 appropriation to be paid by each of the governmental units within your system. The current schedule is due to be updated fiscal 2025. If you have any questions, feel free to contact PERAC. PERAC, I think the importance of this on the agenda is just to keep it out in the open. We do have the breakdown by department, which means city, gas and electric, waterworks, geriatric authority is zero.
Zero. We'll get that.
Wastewater treatment plant and housing authority. So this is just what is owed from each of these units of government itself for the purpose of what retirements are being paid out. Doesn't get into the unfunded liability, but I think it's important to keep these numbers in mind that they do come out of the budget. Tanya, did you want to add anything?
I just thought it was kind of interesting that from fiscal year 2023 to fiscal year 2024, the city's appropriation went down by $100,000. And I did have a conversation with Tony about that, and he was just saying that people are leaving the system. So that's why the appropriation is less, because the cost is down. So.
Okay. Thank you. Good to know.
That's good.
Any discussion? We can just keep this in the archives, but I just wanted to keep it in the open because a copy was referred to committee. I think there's actually still a copy out there or tabled somewhere.
I can make a motion to keep the funding for retirement from PARAC in the Archives Committee.
Motion made, second, we keep this in the archives for future reference. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Gentlemen, ladies, everybody, I want to thank this committee for a wonderful 2 years. I want to thank the Finance Committee for a number of years for the hard work you've done. I don't usually do this, but Councilor Dahlman, Councilor Powell, this is our last Finance Committee meeting. We are signing off. We still have 2 more meetings left. Tomorrow night, the special meeting, and the full City Council meeting next Tuesday, but I appreciate your hard work. Councilor Anderson Burgos, if you're on the Finance Committee next year, the best of luck to you, but we thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for all your years of service. I really
The chair does
appreciate it.
recognize, I'm sorry, go ahead, Juan.
You too, Peter. Sorry.
All right.
I just wanted to thank Joe and Peter for your service, for your many years of service, and City Council will definitely not be the same without you. So, thank you.
We appreciate
Appreciate
that.
it. Thank you.
And we were joined by Tessa Murphy Ramboletti a little bit late, but she wanted to make sure she heard the sewer fund and enterprise vote, and I appreciate that. And I want to thank our good city solicitor, assistant city solicitor, Mike Bissonette, for being with us this evening. Mayor Bissonette is a welcome addition to the city solicitor's office, and Mike, thank you for joining us in the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
My pleasure, Mr. Chairman. Glad to be with you.
So we got a hand up?
No, that's not a.
It's not a white hand?
Yeah, that's like
That's something else?
system being weird.
That's-
yeah.
Oh, okay.
See you later.
Oh, see you later.
Motion
Thank
to
you.
adjourn.
Motion adjourned,
All those in
second.
favor?
Aye, thanks.
Opposed?
Good work, Joe.
We stand adjourned. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you all for your service.